Hello everyone. So it's been a while since I posted a video to this channel. I did a few Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives. You may have watched that. I don't know who watches these videos, if anyone. But if you are watching, I likely know you personally, first of all. But this whole YouTube channel, I created it more or less as a way for me to better articulate my own views, and also as a way to kind of discipline myself in terms of educating myself, being up to date on the news. It Obviously it was irregular. I didn't have a exact schedule to when I would post a video. It would basically be just whenever I wanted to, but it regimented myself enough to kind of just be methodical about how I was going about looking at the news and look into things and just take notes. I mean, it's not like I put much work into these videos. I'm just kind of speaking from my heart, from my mind, how I see things in the country. Um, and it was, in large part a response to Trump becoming president, and now Trump is no longer the president. It is Biden in the White House now. So going forward, you know, I want to make this video that is analyzing what the Republican Party is doing. I just think there's a lot of interesting things going on, and to some degree, I don't know how much of a threat the Republicans are going to be in terms of, because we had an insurrection, an attempted insurrection on the Capitol. Well, it's like they got into the Capitol building. They didn't overthrow the election, so it was an attempt in that regard. But they did breach the Capitol building. These were Trump supporter people, QAnon believers, and so I don't know how much of that violence we will continue to see. You always hope that there's an end to violence and there's no more people being injured, or 5 people died at the January 6th storming of the Capitol. So I do worry a little bit about potential violence coming in the future. I mean, impeachment. Trump has now been impeached a second time in the House, and they're beginning the process in the Senate. And I'm jumping ahead as I usually do, but it's not gonna probably end in a Trump conviction because they don't have the Republican votes. You need 2/3 majority in the House to convict, and it's probably just not going to happen. So, if once that fails, which it most likely will, I don't know if the Democrats will continue down that path of trying to ban Trump from running for office again. They can do that. They can evoke the 14th Amendment, and they only need a simple majority of 50. It's like 51 votes. So, I don't know if the Democrats would do that. The point I'm saying though is, if there's some kind of outcome, whether it be impeachment or otherwise, where they ban Trump from running again, I think that almost could lead to some unrest. And again, I just don't know how sustainable these things are. We just know now that the QAnon type people, they have representation in Congress now. They have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I'm going to talk all about, but she's not the only one now. There's multiple QAnon congressmen in the House. So, it's a very crazy time for everyone, but the Republicans are in such disarray right now, and I think it's just worth talking about, just to kind of analyze what's likely going to happen, the dynamics going forward, um, and yeah, just like talk about some things recently that are happening. So, like I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, her crazy views are in the spotlight right now. She has been on the record of believing some pretty wacky things. Um, starting with I think it was like Rothschild. I'm not sure, this like big Jewish like Wall Street firm or something like that. Like so basically like it was a very anti kind of Semitic trope that she was throwing out there. But basically like this Jewish Wall Street company or whatever was behind space lasers that were creating the California wildfires. And I mean, of course, she also believes the election fraud, stop the steal stuff. That is basically what every other Republican believes now. Most Republicans believe that Trump won in some fashion or another. I think it's something like 71% of Republicans. But what else does Marjorie Taylor Greene believe? She may not believe, or she might think that 9/11 is an inside job. She went before Congress and had to basically, plead with them and say, like, go easy on me and, like, don't punish me too much. And when she goes up there and talks about 9/11, I mean, watch the video. I'm not even, putting words in her mouth. She's just like, and I just want to be clear that 9/11 did happen. It's like, what are you talking about? She said it like twice, like as she was finishing out, she's like, it definitely happened or something. Like, it's like, that doesn't clarify anything. You're saying a factual thing that happened in reality. He's like, I'm affirming that this happened. So you're not saying anything about who did it, what it was about. But the comment that was, kind of viewed as a little suspicious was, I think it was from like 2 years ago or something like that. She made a comment about the plane that hit the Pentagon, how it might not have been a plane, and so it's like, there's no evidence. What's going on? And on top of that too, she appears to be someone who was like a truther for the Parkland shooting. There's video of her harassing David Hogg on the street, who was one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting. And so, put aside the crazy Alex Jones conspiracy theory beliefs that she may have, she definitely, like, we can look back at stuff she's posted. There's another aspect to this too, but like we can look at the crazy things she said in the past, and it's like there's no even denying that she said these things. It's all about like, oh well, she said these things while she was just a citizen, so why are we gonna hold her to account now that she's in power? Well, okay, fine. Some crazy beliefs. Everyone is entitled to believe whatever. All right, okay. But well, first of all, I just want to say with the David Hogg thing, because I brought that up, like, whether or not you believe whatever about that, maybe you're against gun control. I get that, I guess, but like, you're gonna go and harass a survivor of a school shooting on the street. The dude's a teenager, so grow up. Like, it's like, what are you doing? But probably the more important point is Marjorie Taylor Greene has basically indicated that she's in favor of assassinating Nancy Pelosi. There was a tweet that said, like, we should put a bullet in her head. Someone should put a bullet in her head. So, ask yourself, would you want to work with someone, whatever field it is, doesn't matter, would you want to work with someone who has openly said, I want to kill you? Or I would be okay if someone killed you? Like, it really starts to get into some scary territory here. And like I may have mentioned in a previous video, I think maybe on Facebook or Instagram, like during the insurrection, she was tweeting about Nancy Pelosi had left the chambers. Like this is while the insurrection's happening, and she's basically communicating with traitors to the country, terrorists, domestic terrorists. And I mean, it's not directly like, oh, Nancy Pelosi's here, but you're kind of helping them out, aren't you? And like, I don't know why you thought that was a good idea to tweet publicly. Like, what other explanation is there? I don't know. But okay, so her crazy views have been in the news. She's trying to plead with people, but she ended up getting booted from her committee appointments. And once that happens, she can't propose any legislation. So her role now is just to vote yes or no on things. She can't propose anything if you're not on a committee of any kind. So, the QAnon wing of the Republican Party is very dominant right now because there just aren't a lot of moderates left. It's like you might have some people that are trying to fashion themselves as moderate. Maybe they try to give the appearance that they aren't as far right as they actually are. But at the end of the day, like the moderates, like the Mitt Romneys and those people, it's the group of 10. That's what they call it. There's 10 moderates, and those were the ones that in the House voted for impeachment. So there's just not a lot of reason to be had anymore in the Republican Party. That they're being taken over by the conspiracy nonsense, and it's really the chickens coming home to roost. It's like they've fed into this hysteria on so many different things. Like immigration, with the election. They flirted with disinformation and like pushing this narrative about American exceptionalism essentially, and how the communists are somehow taking over, like China's secretly running the country or something. Like it gets crazy what these QAnon people believe. They really believed that the military was going to take over during the inauguration and arrest all the people there. Like Biden and Kamala and all these people were like, the TV was going to go black, and then all of a sudden military takes over. Like, where do they get this stuff? I don't know. But okay, so Liz Cheney, she sided with impeaching Trump. So she's getting a lot of backlash from the voter base. So she could be in danger of losing her seat probably. But they kept her in leadership, the Republicans. They voted to keep her as probably on a committee. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but they didn't, chastise her in a formal way, as it were. But it was a secret ballot, which I think is worth noting because the Republicans, they know that they don't want to give any kind of indication, at least not as, they don't want to tell people more than they have to that they're trying to get rid of Trump. Like the toxicity of it, they want to purge the party of that. So they made it a secret ballot because they know Republicans that sided with Liz Cheney, and essentially, I mean, maybe they don't agree on impeaching Trump. If they still voted for keeping Liz Cheney on in leadership, that could be the case. But it's like they clearly, it wasn't such a breaking point. That it's like, because some of these Republicans, like, they just believe it's unconstitutional to go through this impeachment. And that's, another thing that's worth noting too is 55 Republicans voted that this process is unconstitutional because Trump is no longer president. So that gives you the answer right there. Like, impeachment will probably not work. I would bet money on it, to be honest, because you would need at least 10 Republicans, right? You're just not going to get even five, probably. So I just don't get where the thinking is. I mean, they want to hold Trump to account, and so see, this is a problem with Biden in general. You know, I'll probably get into this in the next video, but you know, Biden, he's so obsessed with bipartisanship that he is just he drags his feet on all this stuff. I mean, impeachment he doesn't have anything to do with. He's staying out of that, of course. That's Congress is doing and the Senate. But when it comes to the COVID relief, he tried to reach out to Republicans. And honestly, I think he did it for too long. He was trying to do it with, you know, by trying to beat the filibuster. I don't know about Biden's position on like getting rid of the filibuster. I know that there's a lot of senators that don't want to get rid of the filibuster. I haven't heard Biden speak on that specific topic, but they wanted to get these 10 Republicans to vote for the COVID relief, and it was just not happening. The Republicans were proposing stuff, a plan that was wildly insufficient. It was like only a couple $100 billion, and it's like that's not an emergency thing. Like a budget, a usual budget is in the trillions. Like I don't know, it just makes no sense. There's not. They offered up something that was clearly not enough, and I feel like just Biden, he should have gone through reconciliation in the beginning, because that's what the Republicans did with the tax plan, their GOP tax cut that cut taxes massively for the wealthy. They went through reconciliation, and that was their intention all along. But the Democrats always want to appear like they're above the fray, and we have to be bipartisan and we have to work with Republicans because we're reasonable. Well, in the meantime, this you keep talking about it's an emergency and we gotta get shots in people's arms. We gotta get money in people's hands. It's such a big thing. Well, why are you wasting time on it? Do it. People do not care. I feel like people need to emphasize this point like much more, especially on mainstream media, because it would just blow their minds. They worship bipartisanship like it's a religion. People do not care if 10 Republicans vote for their $1,400 checks. I mean, that's a whole other topic about how much the check should be. But whatever, 1,400 people will be happy about that, and they're not going to care about how many Republicans voted for it or not. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know what world these people are living in, but this idea that, we can't pass emergency relief if it's not bipartisan, because then that would be wrong. I mean, no one thinks that way. Only people in D.C. think that way. So it's time to, face facts and just... We're trying to freaking get people to see that the Democrats can handle themselves and govern, but whenever they get the reins of governing, whenever they get into power, they act like they can't do anything. Because it's all about the process for them. It's all about how they do it. And that's a big problem. So... the last thing I guess I'll just leave on, this is a short video. I just wanted to kind of talk about some things with the Republican Party, and I'm sure I'll probably have more to say in terms of the Democrats, but just to show you how this is like all over the place, Mitt Romney proposed $3,000 per kid that's 6 to 17. He called it the Family Security Act, and it's like $4,600, I think, for families that have, like a baby like that's just born up until 6. So they get more money if it's an infant. But I mean, I guess the idea behind that is they want to be able to target this money. They're talking about the stimulus checks going to people that are, like we can't just give away money to everyone, right? We got to target these people, like target the right individuals. And that's another thing. Like with the relief, the checks used to be everyone. I think it was 75,000 or 70,000. Everyone who made that amount or less got the full amount. In this case, 1,400. But now they're trying to lower that to 5,000, and you know, even people who made 70,000, 75,000 can still be suffering, especially during a pandemic right now. So, it's just a very they're trying to force this means testing in order to show like, oh, we're doing the fiscally responsible thing, right? Well, it doesn't actually cost that much more money, and even raising the amount to 2,000, that wouldn't have costed much more either. Is a drop in the bucket compared to what we usually spend. It's like a couple $100 billion, but that doesn't. I would rather that money go into the hands of the American people. All right, so just they drag their feet, the Democrats, and they compromise up front, and it's like now, like they pretty much understand that they won't get any Republican votes on this, but they're still going to water it down. So what is going on here? Like you're freaking compromising when you don't even have to now. And that was the same situation with Obamacare, because that got 0 Republican votes, and Obama just did not fight for the public option. He didn't take on that fight in his own party. He could have forced the blue dog's hand, but he didn't. So I feel like it's very similar here, because there's just no point to water it down. No Republicans are going to vote for it anyways now. It's going to be going through reconciliation. That takes time to go through that process. You need a certain amount of hours of debate. So time is a wasting, and it's like as this continues without any of the relief going through right now, I feel like even more people are going to be suffering. It's taken too long at this point. That they said it was $2,000 first of all, and they said it was going to be out in like the first week. They wasted time. They just straight up wasted time. But okay, I got off on that tangent there. But Mitt Romney proposed this thing to give thousands of dollars to families, and it just struck me as bizarre, because like he's a moderate. He's supposed to be one of those like super fiscal conservatives, right? And it's like the idea was kind of I like I said before, like I get that he's trying to get the right people, get like aid, money, relief, whatever you want to call it, like to the right individuals who he feels needs it. But like just the fact that the amount was actually pretty high, and that's per child, 3,000 for 6 up to 17, and then 4,600 for 6 and under. I mean, that's per child, and like it just struck me as like coming out of nowhere for Mitt Romney. It's like, how did you suddenly get onto this idea? And like I say, like it just shows that there's a sense of we don't know like what is even going on in the Republican Party. Like they're contending with their own divisions. The QAnon wing is kind of taking over, and it's it's at least taking up all the spectacle. Like the moderates. Biden loves the moderates. Like he'll meet with them to discuss their COVID relief bill, but like that's not where the energy in the for the Republicans are right now. It's with Trump, and that is a very precarious situation for the Republicans because like they want to hold on to the Trump base, people who are very loyal to him and like him, but they kind of just want to purge the party of Trump and move on from him.